Welcome everyone. Let's get some Rivian updates right away. I decided to increase my position by about 10%. I bought around 175 shares to add to my position after the latest drop. And let's just go over today what really happened this previous week and why Rivian just tanked so much. Shares of Rivian fell nearly 23% on Thursday, the biggest daily percentage decline since their debut in 2021. After the electric vehicle maker unveiled plans to issue $1.5 billion worth of convertible green bonds. This is the second time in less than a year that Rivian is issuing such a green bond, which raises capital from investors seeking to back climate-focused project. Rivian shares fell by 23% to 1827, a 3-month low. The stock is down about 1% year to date, has now dropped 77% from its initial price offering at $78. Now, this convertible bond offering was a really bad idea just because it came too soon. A lot of companies were expecting these bonds to be issued sometimes later, and Rivian should have probably waited a few quarters just to show that they're actually progressing, that they're actually building on more vehicles, they're actually having these sales come in, that their revenues are increasing. So it would have been advisable for Rivian to wait a few more quarters just to gain that investor confidence. So shipping the same number of cars, earnings are in line, they're raising cash earlier than people thought, and the cash flow could be dilutive. I think that's a concern because it still seems a speculative business, Johnson added. So Johnson is basically saying these guys are diluting their existing shareholders. These convertible bonds will eventually most likely be converted into stocks. So the people who hold shares now will own less of an ownership in the company once these bonds are actually converted. It said on Monday it was on track to deliver 52,000 vehicles this year, disappointing many investors and analysts who expected the company to raise its production target. It made sense for analysts to expect actually for them to raise their guidance since this is a production run rate of over 60,000 vehicles produced annually, and since they're still ramping, expecting the next quarter to have even higher delivery numbers, a lot of people were expecting them to raise their production and their guidance. However, most likely they will beat these numbers in next quarter. RJ Scaringe is just an extremely conservative guy. He's been quoted before by saying that he wants to underpromise and overdeliver. So he's setting up the company for a huge beat this year and probably next year, which will have huge positive effects on his stock price. I will continue to keep adding shares. If this goes below 18, if this goes to 15, I will start buying even heavier. And if it goes back to its 52-week lows, I will make this one of the largest positions of my holding. Rivian chief executive said they had enough money to last it through 2025 as it kept a lid on costs. So they reduced a lot of costs by introducing their in-house enduro motor, involved in making their own batteries. They're making their own hardware, the computers that go on board. They're also building their own software for complete vertical integration. And with volume production, this is all reducing costs. So it did come a bit as a surprise to a lot of investors that these guys would start raising more cash since they promised they would not need any more money by 2025. The announcement shatters one of the key talking points of the bulls, namely that the company has plenty of cash and liquidity. Some investors says it was prudent to issue the bonds now, even if it did not need the funds immediately, as the market could get tighter. So it might be a lot of issues with raising this cash later on. A lot of analysts are saying this cash might not be available within 2 years, especially since bonds are rising. So why would someone buy bonds of an extremely risky company when they can just buy treasuries that are yielding 5 to 10%? Price target for 24 analysts covering Rivian is $30 with a buy recommendation. So the majority of Wall Street is still extremely bullish on this stock, and I remain bullish as well. Raising the cash was not actually a bad thing. In the long run, it's a really positive thing because it will allow them to have a more secure position with just holding so much cash while they're building out their second factory, while they're launching their second product, the R2 models. So overall, this is pretty bullish. If you look at Tesla, I believe Tesla raised around $18 billion since inception from existing and new shareholders by diluting pretty much everyone. I expect there will probably be another race sometime in the future. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's not going to be too soon and it's going to be a little bit more thought out. they didn't really need to raise this cash right away. They could have waited a few more quarters just to show investors their huge numbers, just to show they're beating pretty much estimates. And if they issued the cash then, the drop in the stock price wouldn't have been so substantial. From Peter Johnson, is Rivian R1S the new Escalade? So there was a convoy of vehicles exiting Vegas, exiting a concert, U2 concert, and they had pretty heavy police escorts. So these are pretty much all VIPs. If I had to guess, this was most likely Tim Cook, this was Ben Affleck, this was Jennifer Lopez, and this was probably Christian Bale. All of these guys own these vehicles, and they've been fairly obsessed with driving them around. So all of these VIPs were at U2 concert, and they were just displaying their vehicles in a convoy. They all left together, so this was probably a huge VIP group. Rivian is already making a name for itself, attracting star power as it expands production in its Normal plant. The Rivian has significantly increased output. So could Rivian's electric SUV be the next Cadillac Escalade? Cadillac Escalades are infamously and famously known to be a vehicle that's been preferred by celebrities to travel. It's been a status vehicle for many movies, for many superhero movies, for many bad guy movies. So it's a very iconic vehicle to travel in comfort. So it's very possible, well, it's not very possible, it's fairly likely that Rivian is actually taking over this segment from Cadillac Escalades. Rivian's R1S is a better convoy vehicle nearly every way compared to the Escalade. For one, it's loaded with the latest tech and features, plus the vehicle continues to improve with every over-the-air update. It can fit 7 passengers with a spacious, modern interior, 104 cubic feet of storage, up to 400 miles of range. It's more than enough to get from a venue to nearby hotel, airport, and the like. Rivian has actually had a really very warm reception, especially from high-end users. This is a $80,000+ vehicle, so the primary targets were wealthy clientele. So wealthy clientele have accepted these vehicles. We can see Tim Cook, we can see Ben Affleck, we can see Christian Bale, many other celebrities just on the waiting list trying to get this vehicle. So there's a big future here, and I remain extremely bullish on the company. I increased my position more than 10% on these holdings, and I will continue to do so as the price drop. So that's it, guys. I want to give you an update on what's happening with Rivian. Questions or comments, let me know.